अमेरिका की मशहूर और मारूफ उर्दू दां और उर्दू तहज़ीब और शायरी से बहुत गहरा ताल्लुक़ और मोहब्बत करने वाली बहुत मोहतरम खातून मोहतरमा फ्रांसिस प्रिचेट आज हमारे दरमियान हैं। हमारी खुशकिस्मती है कि आज हमें उनसे उनकी उर्दू से मुताल्लिक़ सरगर्मियों के बारे में कुछ मालूम करने का मौका मिल रहा है। हमारे यहाँ एक बहुत तवील फहरिस्त है यूरोप के उर्दू जानने वालों की। राफ रसल साहब से एक पूरी दुनिया वाकिफ़ है, उर्दू के तमाम लोग। लेविस मैथ्यूस हैं और उसी सिलसिले में आपने जो खिदमात अंजाम दी हैं उर्दू अदब और उर्दू तहज़ीब, उर्दू ज़बान को समझने की और दूसरों तक पहुंचाने की, अमेरिका में ख़ास तौर पे जो आपने काम किया है कोलंबिया यूनिवर्सिटी से अपनी वापसगी के दरमियान। हम अपने सुनने वालों को ये बता दें कि मोहतरमा फ्रांसिस प्रिचेट एक अरसे तक अमेरिका की कोलंबिया यूनिवर्सिटी से वाबस्ता रहीं और वहाँ दर्स व तदरीस के खिदमात अंजाम दी और अभी वहाँ से सुबुकदोश हुई हैं, लेकिन अभी तक उनकी वाबस्तगी बरकरार है। और दूसरे बहुत से प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं उर्दू से मुताल्लिक़, उर्दू पढ़ाने के, उर्दू आम करने के, उर्दू तहज़ीब की से वाक़फ़ियत आम करने की सरगर्मियों में वो बहुत शद्दोमत से शरीक हैं। तो आज हम आपसे आपने जो हमें वक्त दिया है उसका फ़ायदा उठाते हुए ये मालूम करना चाहेंगे कि आपका ध्यान किस तरह उर्दू की तरफ गया और क्या चीज़ थी जिसने आपको तहरीक दी उर्दू ज़बान सीखने की और उसे उसके तहज़ीब को, उसकी शायरी को समझ के और दूसरों तक पहुंचाने की।
अच्छा, तो सबसे पहली बात यह है कि आप लोग बुरा न माने अगर मैं कुछ अंग्रेज़ी में
जी बिल्कुल
बात करूं उर्दू के अलावा, इसलिए कि मेरी मादरी ज़बान है और जिस तरह के मैं अपना मतलब समझ सकती हूँ अंग्रेज़ी में तो उसके बराबर तो उर्दू में और ज़रा मुश्किल होती है। तो आप लोग माफ़ी कीजिए और मैं समझाने की कोशिश करूँगी। I was a child of the Vietnam period, and I graduated from college in 1969. We were all more or less alienated because of the Vietnam War, and I had a chance to travel, and for complicated reasons I decided to go to India. And so I started studying Hindi in preparation, and it was such a delightful language and so very easy, sweet, charming, pleasant. So I went to India, and it was a complicated but wonderful year. And when I came back, I really wanted to continue to study Hindi and to study South Asia. So I ended up starting my career at Berkeley in the graduate program there. And like all sensible graduate programs that I know, the instruction, the padhai was for both scripts. If you wanted to study Hindi, you were also taught Urdu script.
Who were your teachers?
Vice versa.
आपके टीचर्स कौन थे उस वक्त?
And I wanted to especially honor my one teacher was Bruce Prey, and I especially want to speak of Moazim Siddiqui, who was the person who taught me Urdu script, and he was a real
Berkeley.
Urdu fanatic. He had come to Berkeley to study entomology, yani insects वगैरह के बारे में, and he changed his mind and he became interested in Urdu and Persian poetry. He wrote his dissertation on Bedil, the Indo-Persian poet, and he earned his living while he was studying by teaching as a teaching assistant, and he taught our class Urdu script, all of us Devanagari Walas. And so it took us a whole hour to read a share of Ghalib. We had no idea what an izafat was. We struggled through, but at the end of the hour we had read it, and then he played Begum Akhtar singing that share for us. And to me that was just a decisive thing. That was how poetry ought to be. That entirely pleased me. And if you don't mind, I'll expand on that a little bit because it's an important part of the story. That I hardly knew any Urdu then, and my Hindi wasn't so good. I went to the library to look for more information about this ghazal genre that was so compelling and pleasing to me. And there I found Sadiq's History of Urdu Literature, the one you will still find if you go into any university library in America. And I thought, this is the man for me. He's a professor. He has a background in English, but he's from Lahore. He's an Urdu wala. He will explain it all to me. And of course, as I started to read his book, in the very preface, I came upon the most awful and ridiculous statement. He said, in the hierarchy of literary genres, the Urdu ghazal stands very low. Mm-hmm. And I thought this was so ridiculous because, first of all, there is no such hierarchy, and there can't be any such hierarchy because no one has the authority or the knowledge to make it. And even if there were, why would the Urdu ghazal be placed very low in the hierarchy? And even if it were to be placed very low, why would a person who's taken the trouble of writing a book about the history of Urdu literature be the one to voluntarily place it there? And this was a real mystery to me, and it kind of fired my imagination. Because the other valuable use that I found in Sadiq was that he's a very good writer. He's very wrong-headed in a lot of his views, but he has a good English prose style, very punchy and elegant. And so I found that also inspiring. And he was kind of, the pearl that forces, the grain of sand that forces you to produce a pearl, in a way. So out of that came a lot of my later study. And it came, and the nets of awareness came out of that.
उर्दू की तरफ प्रॉम्प्ट किया जो ये तो एक पूरा सिलसिला रहा है
जी
उर्दू गज़ल की मुखालफत का। कलीमुद्दीन अहमद की बहुत मशहूर किताब है उर्दू शायरी की एक नज़र। उसके पहले भी ये प्रोग्रेसिव मूवमेंट के लोगों ने जो गज़ल को फ्यूडल सोसाइटी और फ्यूडल कल्चर का नुमाइंदा करार दिया और कहा कि आज के ज़माने से, तो ये अच्छी बात है कि आपने उर्दू गज़ल की मुखालफत ने आपको उसी की तरफ दोबारा जाने पर उकसाया। तो फिर आपने आगे किस तरह से आपका सफ़र उर्दू की तरफ किस तरह से जारी रहा?
Well, I wanted to, for complicated reasons, I had to change to the University of Chicago. And I didn't end up studying at Berkeley beyond my MA. And at the University of Chicago, I was fortunate to encounter C.M. Naeem.
Yeah.
And I wanted to study both Hindi and Urdu there. And this was very unusual in those days. Now it's routine, but in those days you normally studied either Urdu or in Persian or Hindi and Sanskrit. So they said, well, if you really want to study both Hindi and Urdu, then you can choose your own classical language. So I chose Sanskrit because I said Persian is easy and I can learn it by myself, and Sanskrit is hard and I'll never learn it by myself. But even so, it takes a while to get good in a language. And so I felt comfortable doing my dissertation, not on Ghalib and the Ghazal, which I still could only read as prose because I hadn't learned the meter system. My teacher hadn't really explained it to us for various reasons. So I worked on prose for quite some time, on qissas and kahaniyan and folk tales in published form, and on the Dastan-e-Amir Hamza. And later in my career I shifted over and I figured the meter out, and I started working seriously on Ab-e Hayat and on the history of the Ghazal and on Ghalib and Mir. And that's where I plan to be for the rest of my life. It's been a wonderful journey.
अमेरिका में आपको ये किताबें हासिल करने में कोई ज़्यादा दुश्वारी तो नहीं होती?
नहीं ज़्यादा. I mean, not more than anywhere else. In the old days, I used to travel all the time, and I used to sit in the shop of the Kutub Khana Anjuman Taraqi-e-Urdu right by the Jama Masjid for long hours, drinking tea and waiting till the Maulvi Saab felt like having some books brought down from his upstairs little attic and shown to me. So that was how you got books back then. And, you needed adab and good manners and refinement and not to ask, but just to sit politely and wait. And now, of course, you can get books in a lot of easier ways through the internet. So there's always these tabdiliyan, but there's always ways to do things if you're determined.
तो ये शुरू में आपने किताबें नस्र की, प्रोज, दास्ताने और किस्से, ये सारी चीज़ें, गालिब पे आपने खासा सर्फ किया है अपना वक्त, और कमेंट्री भी आपने लिखी है गालिब पर
जी।
तो ये गालिब से दिलचस्पी किस तरह से, मतलब ये प्रोज से आपका शायरी की तरफ सफ़र और उसमें गालिब जैसा शायर, तो उससे आपका जो टकराव हुआ गालिब से, तो क्या कैसी चिंगारियाँ उड़ी? इसलिए कि इतना एक तो बहुत पेचीदा शायर भी है और कहीं कहीं बहुत आसान भी है और बहुत सी चीज़ें गालिब के यहाँ हैं जो शुरू में तो आदमी को ज़रा से दूर हटाती हैं.
Well, I had started with Ghalib. That was the first thing I loved before I ever started working on prose and on Hindi Urdu back and forth. So it wasn't strange to me to go back to him. And people have said, actually, to me, especially in Pakistan, well, you foreigners, you always appreciate Ghalib because of the pyrotechnics. He'll twist the language, he'll play with the grammar, he'll be flagrantly difficult, he'll be in your face saying, this is hard, this is tough, ye bahut hi mushkil hai, ye bahut hi pecheeda baat vagara. Whereas someone like Mir or someone like Zauq, they will use the muhavara perfectly, and they will never disturb the word order, and they will never twist or distort or make flashy effects. And therefore we Ahle Zaban, we appreciate what they can do, but you foreigners who don't know the language so well as we do, you appreciate the more flashy effects. So there's the negative side of perhaps if you're a foreigner you only can appreciate the flashy effects. But that's impossible to argue, of course. And certainly I do appreciate the flashy effects of Ghalib, and I also appreciate the more subtle effects of Mir. But Ghalib was my first love, and if I had to go to a desert island, I'd take him with me.
It is a common experience that European Urdu scholars, they are more concerned with the cultural side of the language. Rather than the text and the devices that go into making of a poetry. Many scholars in Europe and America, is there any particular reason for that, for getting closer to the cultural side of the language rather than the creative side?
Well, I can't speak for other people. That's certainly not the case with me. I love the poetry, and I would, if I found it floating in a bottle, I would gladly pick it up and enjoy it without any knowledge of the cultural factors and all. For one thing, you see the Russians doing this, because in the old days of the Soviet Union, you know, you could study Ghalib's pension problems. It counted as part of his bourgeois and capitalist and you know, problems of this and that. And perhaps it was harder to study the literary aspects of his work or the religious aspects of his work for the Russians in the old days. And people had lots and lots of different interests. You know, there were historians who wanted to use Ghalib's writings about 1857 or Ghalib's letters as sources of historical information rather than chiefly as ways to study his poetry. And of course there's been the whole natural poetry, natural Shayari movement that I've spent my whole career fighting. And it has attempted to say that the use or one of the uses of the ghazal is to find out information about the poet's life, and that the best favor you can do for a verse is to demonstrate that it connects to or informs us about some real circumstance in the poet's life. And of course, basically the classical ghazal doesn't do this. And so it's been a disaster to try to apply natural Shayari norms to the classical ghazal. But there we are, and we're recovering from that difficult period now, even though slowly.
आपने ट्रांसलेशन किया है इंजार साहब की नॉवेल का बस्ती का, तो कोई ख़ास वजह थी इस इंतखाब करने के नावल बस्ती के इंतखाब का, या just you picked it up and translated?
Well, it was a wonderful novel, and that was back in the days when I was still thinking more of prose, and I thought that it reflected something about the old Ganga Jamuni Tehzeeb, and I was interested in the effects that he'd aimed to create. If you know the novel, you know that during those long nights of warfare, when there's blackout, our hero Zakir is sitting in the night and the dogs are barking, and he thinks himself back into earlier periods of Islamic history, and we find Dastan language, we find Jataka language, we find all sorts of earlier influences and historical moments recaptured in the prose. And of course you can't really do that well in English, but I really liked that part of the novel very much, and that made me want to work on it also.
रेख्ता ने अभी 1-1.5 साल से 2 साल से ये काम शुरू किया है, और आप भी उससे
a wonderful project,
दिलचस्पी रखती हैं
Rekhta.org.
तो
It is a pleasure. Let me make a statement in favor of Rekhta.org, which no one could bribe me to make, but I make it very willingly, that it's a wonderful project. And I really can understand and empathize with the degree of zauq and shock that go into this project, because they're similar to what I feel myself.
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया तशरीफ़ लाने का और हमसे अपने ख्यालात में शरीक करने का। फिर जब कभी आप तशरीफ़ लाएं हिंदुस्तान तो हम ज़रूर चाहेंगे कि आप हमारे यहाँ हमारा तशरीफ़ लाएं रेख्ता में और अपनी मौजूदगी का फ़ायदा उठाने का मौका दें।
बहुत शुक्रिया।